You're listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. I hope you're well, especially during this very strange, this eerie time at the moment where we're all locked up inside. I have noticed that my podcast episodes are being listened to a lot more since this bloody virus pandemic took off, so I know a lot of you have got some time on your hands. I hope you're well. I hope you're not drinking too much. I hope you're keeping that side of things fairly balanced because, let's face it, drinking too much sucks. Who am I to pontificate, though? Do whatever the hell you want to do. I just sincerely want to wish all of you out there that listen to my podcast series a big thank you. And if you ever want to chat, you know, you're all music fans. I know that from experience that the people that have reached out have all been individually very cool individuals. So if you want to have a chat over Facebook Messenger, Twitter, whichever way you feel like reaching out to me, go ahead and do that. I can't promise too much because I'm usually fairly busy myself, but I'll always get back to everybody that reaches out and wants to have a chat because of what I'm doing here with the podcast series. So let's get to it then. The interview subject I've got coming up for you, and I know I'm going to mispronounce his surname here. It's Trevor Strnad, I think it is. I think that's how you pronounce Trevor's surname there. And he's from the band Black Dahlia Murder. The reason for the conversation is due to the band's April 17 due release, Verminous. It's a hell of an album. Continues exactly what these guys have been doing for the last 20 odd years or so, which is providing brutal death metal rhythms. I know they get called metalcore a little bit, but I don't really care. I think they're a death metal band. So here he is, Trevor Strnad from Black Dahlia Murder.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, mate. How's things?
Good, man. Sorry about that. The last guy went over by a couple seconds there, but You're my final one. We can take our sweet time if you'd like.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, God, don't apologise. I know how busy you've been, mate. It's such a weird time, isn't it, at the moment as well? I mean, you got this excellent new album to promote, mate, and I can't work out. So I guess this is my first question for you. Having such a captive audience like there is out there at the moment, given basically nobody anywhere in the world can do anything without risk of catching this bloody insidious virus, so we're all staying inside. Is it a good thing to be releasing an album at this particular period of time, or is it really going to affect business for you guys not being able to tour off the back of it? Because I think with you guys in particular, the live arena is really where it's at.
Oh, for sure. You know, it's actually both sides of the coin. I think our Testament tour is looking pretty dismal at this point. Which is going to hurt a lot, like to not be out the week that the record comes out and sell the extra copies to people. And also people won't be able to go to the store to get it, but there's so much time to fester on a new record. You know, people can sit there and listen to it without any distractions. And, hopefully this can be the soundtrack to this time. And weirdly, It's got a lot of plague kind of themes to it, which we had no idea was going to be so timely,
I'm hearing you. I mean, even the title of it, Verminous, I hope I've said it the right way there, but all I could think of was vermin and plague and, viruses and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, you're on point. Even the album cover, the colour of it almost looks it's radioactive or something. I know it's.
That was the whole goal there was kind of saying that death metal is a plague, like a plague of secret knowledge that and we're the rats and roaches and undesirable creepy crawlies spreading it.
That's such a good way of putting it. Death metal is secret knowledge. I like that. I like that a lot. I haven't heard that before, and that really resonates with me because I was talking to Mark Heilman the other day, of course, from Suicide Silence, and I think what you guys are doing as musicians who have a fan base and who are bringing these wonderful riffs and these brutal vocals, blast beats to people, I don't think people understand how important it is to a massive cohort of humanity. This music truly is, and never before really, certainly in our collective lifetimes, is this music going to be as relevant, if you like, to people's lives as what it is right now. And what I talked to Mark about was how epic riffs, the role that they play in people's lives. I know for a fact that people, rather than be, say, medicated for depression or whatever else is going on in their life, they mine music they stick to music. Music is the elixir that actually helps them through the day, and I think it's very true with you guys as well. And
It's doing that for me right now. Like I'm always listening to music and checking out new bands, and like just being a total hound for the underground. And it's keeping me positive right now, keeping me happy, and also to like have this new album to focus on too is very keeping me uplifted. And like it's this will hopefully be the soundtrack to what's happening right now. So in a way, it's the perfect time for an album to get out, because we have nothing to do but listen to it and think about it. And that the themes are very like plague driven. Like I don't think anyone's gonna forget this record, because of this whole think up,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, I tell you what, I've had a good listen to it. Chris sent it through a couple of days ago, and I think the production could potentially be the best in your career, and I genuinely mean that. And because I listen to things, and I make a point of not having the best headphones in the biz, and some people criticise me for it, but I don't care, because you're never always going to get the pristine. If you get too pristine an audio experience, everything else sounds disappointing by comparison. It's like driving a Bentley and then getting back into your Subaru or your General Motors vehicle, or whatever description.
I see what you're
You know what I'm saying? So I listen to music on Apple. I've got them on now, AirPods. Okay, now they're convenient, but I know they're not the best sound. Now, what I picked up was that your album sounds just brilliant over these things here, and that's a bloody hard thing to do, and I'll dive deeper here, because the drum sound, I fell in love with the drum sound on this album first, because the drums sound pummeling. They don't have that typewriter sound going on. They actually sound full, and what I love is the way that you guys have managed to marry the sound of the bass drum up with the bass guitar, which is clearly audible under the guitar shrapnel, and I don't know how, it is so hard to get that right. So was that something that you noticed yourself, and something that you're really focused on with the other guys?
We've been wanting like a more classic kind of production value, a bit more live and a bit more raw than a lot of our contemporaries that overly Pro Tools their albums, So we kept the drums real, and you can really hear the rhythm section, very loud and clear, and like they're kind of the way they're intertwined together, is very powerful with this record. And I think too, Madsen did an exceptional job of mixing. There's so many details in our music and so much information crammed into some of the passages. Like it's we have to be a pretty damn difficult band to mix, I imagine, So
yes,
that he can have every instrument shining, every instrument like sounds great, is like legible and clear, and but it's also not too overly polished, like it sounds like a more of a mid 90s to late 90s production, like before the whole era kind of like sucked the life out of everything. So it's more painstaking to record the drums live and to not like be building the drums with a computer or sliding it onto the grid perfectly. So there's a real humanity to the record that's important. Yes. It makes it more timeless. It makes it more like a classic record sounds, I think, and that was a realization a couple of years back. We've been like itching towards that,
Something else I noticed too, and it's always been the case for you guys to an extent, but the guitar solos on this album are fantastic. Then the ones that are in Removal of the Oaken Stake, holy shit. Really, I mean, your guys, Brandon, is it Brandon that does the solos? Or is it Brian?
Yeah, Brandon, man, it's Brandon. He's just a virtuoso. He's young, which is insane, but he's so very wise musically. And, we let him produce a record and record the bulk of us. and he's just stepped into his role in the band like so proudly and fearlessly. Like, it's been amazing. And yeah, I think this is the best like leads we've had, and they kind of embody both of our previous eras of lead players. Like, it has the kind of emotional like level that John had, the early guitar player, and then like the technical chops of Ryan Knight too,
Yeah,
like somewhere between that. So it's like, has a lot of stylistic technical flair, but still like elicits an emotional response. It tugs at the heartstrings.
totally. Yeah, very Randy Rhoads, mate. I've got to say, that's the first thing that Randy's playing was always that perfect mix between technical ability, shred, and also just raw emotion. And, man, he's got it. There's no doubt about that. So,
He's a child of that kind of guitar playing and that
yeah,
era of guitars, of guitar heroes and like Shrapnel Records shredders, and
nice.
he's cut from a different cloth than a lot of young kids in the metal. Like, he loves
Mm.
classic heavy metal and rock and six strings. That's all he needs. He doesn't want to play eight strings. He doesn't want to play seven strings. You know,
Oh,
he's just
God, yeah.
he's a rocker.
And thank God you guys have never succumbed to the djent thing. I've got no problem with Meshuggah and Animals as leaders and the leading lights of the era, Periphery, but my God, the amount of bands that come out with the djent thing at some point in time, and that's hopefully that's never been a discussion that's taken place in your rehearsal room.
Oh, definitely not. It's just not like it's I like certain bands from that walk, but it's not something I ever see us doing. It just
Yeah,
doesn't fit into our cocktail of sounds. And if anything, the new territories for the newest two records have been like mining like classic heavy metal
yeah,
a bit
definitely.
more wave of British heavy metal sound, a little bit
Mm.
more rock elements. Like we're like closing the hi hat on a removal and just like rocking out a little bit there.
Nice, yeah.
Like some new territory for us, but it's still like very traditional metal kind of tropes.
Yeah, yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and look, your voice really is the signature of the band. There, I can always tell it's you guys. If I've got digital radio on in the background or what have you, and the band comes on, and I'm not really that familiar with the song, but when your vocal comes in, wow, okay, I know it's Black Dahlia Murder right there. So, mate, how do you keep the stamina required? Because I mean, yourself, Corpse Grinder. David Vincent, I mean, you guys have all been doing it. I know those guys have been doing it a bit longer than you, of course, mate, but, man, you've been doing it 20 years or so, which I don't think people realise, and you've managed to keep your vocal intact. So, is there a secret to keeping the stamina that is required for you to do what you do?
It's getting a little educated about how to sing, and like learning how to breathe properly.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Um,
big one. Yeah.
keeping a reservoir of air like under your diaphragm, and like um, really practicing a lot, and
Hmm.
just experience, dude. Just years of doing it, and like playing for an hour and 15 minutes every night, like 18 songs. That's
Yeah.
a lot of vocals. That's a lot. So you just have to like rise to the occasion, man, and prepare yourself, do your homework, and yeah, like, I think there's a lot of vocalists that are better than me out there. There's a lot of vocalists that can get lower or higher or more brutal or whatever, but I'm just me. I just do what I do. I don't know. Like, I just do my own thing, I guess. It's influenced by Carcass, the high and low vocal, a
Oh,
little bit of
nice.
DSI too, with the whole layering thing.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's where it all began for me. And yeah, I realized my vocal is very polarizing to people, like maybe a little too screechy for some people at times.
Is that right? You get that feedback, obviously.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. But I just do my thing, man. It's just how it came out. I don't really know what to say about it other than that.
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Deicide there because I did pick that up actually. Are you a fan of the earlier stuff or was it More of the Ralph Santola. Oh, you like the Hoffman era, do you?
Oh
Hoffman
yeah,
Brothers
the
era.
Huff are it, dude. Everything like from the first record to Serpents is just like absolutely perfect. You know, like I wouldn't change anything about it.
Yeah, they were probably the first extreme metal band I got into as well. I'll never forget seeing Legion in stores when it first came out, and it scared the shit out of me. That and Immortals Pure Holocaust. I remember they were the two most evil album covers I'd seen at that point, possibly even to this day, really, especially in context to
Okay.
that era. I mean, you saw that blasphogram thing that was on Legion, and you thought, you know exactly what you're getting when you get this album, and it will sound nothing like anything else out there. And of course, it didn't. And I remember it took me years to get my head around what was on that album, because it sounded like as though they'd got someone that had handed the Hoffman brothers Rain in Blood and said, "Now play it backwards." That's what
Oh yeah,
that's what it sounded like to
yeah.
me.
Legion's my favorite, and it was my first too, and it scared the shit out of me. The level of like satanic imagery was like unparalleled for me at that point. You know, definitely scared me.
Yeah, I got to say though, I was when I heard that the Hoffman brothers had left, I thought, oh shit, what's going to happen here? And then I got the Stench of Redemption. I thought it was pretty good, but then when they toured, Deicide toured in 2006 with they had Jack Owen and of course Ralph Santola, Ralph's probably my favourite guitarist of all time, I must say at this point.
Incredible.
Yeah, when I saw them on stage, I couldn't believe it. It was like they had that blend of the Hoffman brothers death thrash, but then Ralph had bought this magnificent neoclassical guitar playing alongside, and I think I would actually say that'd be, I don't know whether it'd be my favourite death metal album of all time at this point, but certainly inside my top three. I couldn't leave Death or Morbid Angel out of it either, so anywhere in those three there. But I was just so disappointed when Ralph left, and I did have a couple of conversations with him, actually, for the podcast, and just in general. We just talked about stuff in general, and I liked Ralph a lot. I thought he was a fantastic bloke, so I really think it's a shame that things didn't quite work out there more long term with Ralph and Glenn, because I think there's a lot of music that could have been written.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that was a great like rebirth for the band, and a definite like milestone for the catalog for sure.
Yeah.
You know, R.I.P. Ralph, man. It's very sad.
Yeah, I remember talking to Bjorn Speed Strid, from Soilwork and Night Flight Orchestra, who was one of his best mates, along with Bill Hudson, who I've gotten to know as well. And
I know Bill too a little
yeah,
bit.
Bill's fantastic. Bill's a great bloke, and all these guys, all you guys that have achieved some success. I love talking to you guys and the humility that you've got, because it's heavy metal at the end of the day, man. But nobody's got a big head or an ego in our business. I don't find, especially not from my perspective, anyway. When I'm talking to any of you guys that have been doing it for a long time. But sorry, I digress. I was talking to Speed, and I was talking to him the night before, just for an interview. It was just the way the Cosmos lined things up, and we basically made the episode all about Ralph, because it was the night before he passed away, and it was very sad, man. I've got to say, the whole thing, it sort of he did a Facebook post saying that he was going into hospital and he just never came back out again.
Yeah, that's terrible, man. That's so shitty.
But we got his music, mate, and that is very important.
Oh, for sure, man. He left a great legacy of playing out a lot of fantastic records, and had a definite style of his own, for sure.
Mate, who else, when you were really getting into music before you joined a band, what were the bands that really shook your foundation, so to speak?
Megadeth was the first. I had heard metal and liked it. Like Black Album was like everywhere. I was like 10, and but Countdown to Extinction by Megadeth like blew my mind, and made me a metalhead, and made me like want to dive into that culture. But also Suffocation, Pierce from Within was my first death metal record ever.
Nice.
And it was brand new, and that also blew my mind. Definitely, it scared the shit out of me. I remember thinking like, wow, this music is so like twisted and so like labyrinthine. Like, how am I ever gonna understand this? You know?
Yeah. Yes.
But it
Yeah.
came with time for sure. But Carcass is another one. Obviously, I have a Carcass tattoo on my arm, the Tools of the Trade, and
Nice.
that EP especially, like that was my first glimpse into Carcass, and the whole like dual vocal nature just was so scary, and the kind of like real gore aspect of the band,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
not like cartoon monsters, but like a real forensic kind of slant on things was just so like ominous and scary and like real, like it really impacted me a lot.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to have a chat to Jeff Walker at all?
Yeah, we did a tour of the States with them in Gorguts, which was like a childhood dream
Oh
realized for
wow.
me, and
Yeah.
definitely the high points of my life for sure. And I've talked to him a bit. I can't ever seem to get to that level of like, he's just a guy. You know what I mean? Like he's still like my God, and
Yeah.
I can't suppress that very well.
Yeah, I get that. That'd be like if I was going to talk to someone like Billy Gould or Les Claypool from Faith No More and Primus, respectively. They're about the two guys that I'd have trouble sort of putting out in the normal guy category because of the impact they've had on me as a musician and the inspiration that they've provided. And I was actually talking about this with Bill Steer. And I said, I don't think you guys quite realise how influential you've been because they're so humble, right? Which is great, but I don't think Bill realizes that without them doing what they do, half of death metal wouldn't sound the way it does these days.
Oh, for sure, and it's good to see them getting their dues now, since they've reformed, like
Hmm.
headlining big tours across the states and like getting the props they've always kind of deserved. Very
Hmm.
cool.
Yeah, I know you like Celtic Frost as well because the few Celtic Frost posts that I put up there, I've got a. Is it a bot that you use on Twitter where you get that automatic? Ugh, you get that thing.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's a kid from the UK that does it, but yeah, I started following him just so that every time he popped up and said I could like it.
Yeah, classic. Oh, that's what it is. There you go. Yeah, I was wondering what that was because I'm a massive Celtic Frost fan. I think we all are as extreme metal fans, and I in particular, I've got to say, I love Cold Lake. I know everybody hates on that album, but I wasn't old enough at the time to remember when it came out. But I got it a couple of years later, and I was completely oblivious to the fact that it was considered a shitty record because I really liked it. This is back when you're about my vintage, early 40s. Back in the day when there was no internet, you relied on magazines. And if you picked up an album by one of your favourite bands, and if nobody else, and if you weren't reading magazines and you liked it, you weren't influenced by what was written in the magazines.
Oh, sure. It was all like a much slower trickle of information. You know what I mean?
Oh, it was. Yeah. Do you think it was better back then compared to now, or just different?
I think it's just different. Like I love the internet and the ability to comb the international scenes of metal and the history of metal, and find like albums that like only a few were pressed, but they live on digitally. But
Hmm.
also the purity of that old era of like looking through the thank you list of an album for cool band names and
I
then
remember
trying
that.
to find
Yeah.
those records, or like blindly buying records based on the cover, or looking at the T-shirts that different bands wore and like trying to find those bands. It was like being a sleuth.
It was, yeah. Oh, look, I remember I was talking to Mike Browning yesterday. Mike Browning from McTurnus and
Oh,
early,
of
yeah,
course.
legendary guy, fantastic guy. Yeah, I really that's a band that doesn't get its due right there, especially Mike himself for his contribution. I said what I said about Carcass, but I really double down when I talk about Mike Browning and his contribution to death metal. I mean, he's pretty much the guy. He and Cam Lee, and I know that Jeff Becerra sort of was doing his thing, but that real brutal, guttural death metal vocal, that's those guys who really sort of came up with that. And I was
Oh,
talking
for
to
sure.
him. Yeah, I was talking to him about, you know, all that sort of stuff. But fuck, sorry, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Sorry, it's too early in the morning. Sorry, I flew away. I was going to make a really good point about Mike
no,
Browning.
no
Fuck
worries,
it.
man. It's
What do
awesome
we
that you
do?
got to talk to him. Very cool.
Yeah, oh, it was very interesting to talk to him. I'd actually been on Facebook Messenger to him for about 12 months, and I'd been asking him to come on. Do you want to come on the show? Do you want to come on the show? And he's just got some other things going on at the moment. And I literally hit him up about 2 or 3 days ago, just because sensing an opportunity with what was going on with this bloody virus. And he accepted, and I knew when I got him on the call that we just have heaps of things to talk about. So we spoke for almost 3 hours.
Oh wow, that's insane.
Yeah,
That's
well,
great.
this is what happens when you have an opportunity to speak to. Same thing happened with Stuart Anstis, who used to be in Cradle of Filth as well and wrote Cruelty and the Beast, that album there, that classic album back in the day. Is that not a lot of journo types or indie journo types are reaching out to them to have conversations. So when you actually do, they've got a lot to say.
Oh, that's cool. I love Cruelty, man. That definitely influenced a young Black Dahlia Murder for sure.
Yeah. Did you know that he wrote that album? Because of Danny very much presents, and I'm not talking shit about Danny here. I know he's got his, he's got to pay his mortgage and all the rest of it through the band success and all. But the one thing that really shits me is the way he doesn't give credit to guys like Stuart, who, I mean, they're the musicians. They wrote the bloody albums. He just effectively sang on them, really. It is, it's a bit more nuanced than that, but ultimately that's what happened. And when he did that bloody re-release last year, a remix or whatever they did of Cruelty and the Beast, and there was no liner notes with updated information and interviews with guys like Stewart and Les Smith and, of course, Nick Barker, that incredible drummer. God knows what he's doing these days. But I like it when bands honour their past, and I don't know whether Danny's done that effectively.
Yeah, that's a shame for sure. To kind of like have the knowledge and the props Stewart deserves to kind of like lost to time.
Yeah, he's such a tremendous guitarist. I'd love to see. I'll plant a little seed here. I'd love to see a band of your standing, of your credibility, reach out to somebody like that and have them do a guest solo or something like that, because they're basically just been lost to the scene, really, if you know what I'm saying. And because these guys are very humble guys, like Mike is and like Stuart is, they don't ever say too much, so they don't sort of reach out. They're not self-promoting like some people do. They just sort of lead their life and have got their job and raising families and stuff. But man, I've got a keen ear for these things, and I particularly with Stuart, man. I mean, his contribution to black metal is just so totally overlooked. He's the guy that brought in neoclassical and new wave of British heavy metal guitar playing to black metal.
Yeah, man, that's a very like pivotal record for the scene. Very important album, I feel like.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, man, I'll make this my final question for you. But look, your ninth album, it sounds like it's getting easier, but is it? Does it get easier to sit as a collective and try to write the stuff that you're coming up with? Because it's really on point with this album we discussed first up.
Yes and no. Like there's something to be said about having worked together for so long and made so many albums together that makes it easy. But at the same time, we're always elevating the kind of technical aspects, and it's challenging to kind of rise to that occasion sometimes as a vocalist and really honor the music that the guys have written. I feel like they're always getting better every record, so I'm just like doing my best to keep up,
Yeah, I agree, mate. Yeah, well, you're definitely keeping up, but I mean, it's just to think. You're like me, mate, a child of the '90s. I thought heavy metal was going to go completely underground there in the late '90s, meaning that there was no chance that any bands could ever have the broad reach that, say, you guys have achieved or Cannibal have achieved. I know the business side of things is very difficult, mate, but just to think that you guys are now I think you're at your ninth album, counting back.
Yep.
And
Yep.
mate, that's more than just more than just a career. I don't know what to call it, but you're doing it. You're actually doing it, mate. So back when you were listening to Countdown to Extinction, did you have that single focus, that vision that it was just going to happen no matter what, or is the fact that it's become a career is it as much of a surprise to you as say as a fan like myself?
I mean, it was a surprise, especially the longevity and the ability to kind of survive different trends that have happened in heavy music. But it was just a dream as a kid, just a wish, like I never expected it or never like, I didn't really see the potential to be in a real band at all until Black Dahlia. The guys were so much better at playing their instruments than anyone else had ever like aligned myself with. I was like, wow, this could really be it. This could be the band that
Hmm.
gets me out there. Like, I just wanted to make just one album on a real label and like tour and like just live that dream. I thought about so much, you know, and to have it just keep going and going and getting bigger and bigger and like more success and more, just it's been like a giant snowball this whole time. So
Mm.
I'm just seeing the opportunity through and honoring the opportunity the best I can, like by
Mm.
like just dedicating our whole lives to this thing, So I'm still like just seeing my dream unfold. It's been surreal to say the least. It's been an amazing ride.
Mm. Yeah, and that's that humility coming through that I talked about before with guys like yourself. And that really comes through. I know you're very active in the media and you're out there, mate, but you've definitely got that humility down pat, and I think that's part of the draw with this music and indeed Black Dahlia Murder, mate. So, mate, I'll leave it there. Thanks for the conversation, mate. Look, good luck with everything. I really hope you haven't lost too much dough with this. The tour that you were doing with Testament and the other bands coming up. I hope that hasn't sort of hurt you too much in the hip hop, mate, because we'd dearly love to see you down here again whenever this thing's over.
Man, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the support and the kind words. And yeah, we'll get out there as soon as possible, man, for sure.
Definitely. All right, brother. Good luck with everything again, and thanks very much for the chat.
Hey, no problem, man. Take care.
You too, mate. No worries. Catch ya. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series that syndicates for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that interview subject was Trevor Strnad from Black Dahlia Murder. Thanks for listening.